If I can be married, you too can. Oftentimes, we think that time is passing us by and Mr. or Mrs. Right isn't showing up. Or we might have lived a type of lifestyle and we say to ourselves, would anyone ever want me? Or you might be like me, who got pregnant as a teenager outside of wedlock. Or your case might even be different. You might have a health condition and you say to yourself, nobody will want to carry my health burden from the day one. Or your situation might actually be an entirely different scenario. Whatever you think the problem might be, I want you to take a deep breath and relax. All these thoughts are in your head, and you can be married if this is what you sincerely desire. I would like to give a bit of context about myself, which made me say to myself, would anyone in their right senses want to marry me? But I was actually wrong. The real truth was that I was wanted, I was desired, cared for, protected from prying eyes, respected, catered for, highly valued, worthy of love, and married to the love of my life. I didn't just marry anybody who was available. I married a man who I wanted. I married someone I could have a meaningful conversation with, a man whom I can be myself with despite all my baggage, a sensible man, a man who knew my worth and gave me the freedom to be whatsoever I wanted to be. We get defeated in our minds, but you know what? Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. I got pregnant as a teenager in my first year in the university, and I thought my whole life had ended. As you know, in this part of the world where I am in, teenage pregnancy is something you should be very, very ashamed of. And as if that wasn't enough love for a potential bride like me, I started to notice that my body was shaking. I had started becoming very tired. I was sloppy. I was slow. I was always fatigued. And this started in my final year when I was about to graduate. I was 24 then, and boom, I had come down with an old man disease. From where, Kwan? Every young lady I had come across would tell you they desire to be married between the ages of 22 and 25. But here I was, this was not happening for me. Sad as it is, this symptom I had now developed made me to be very ashamed of myself and of what my life had become. I went to the hospital time and time again without getting a diagnosis as to what ails my body. As my symptoms started to get worse by the day, I began to hide from the world. My great hope is to laugh as much as I cry, to get my work done, and to try to love somebody and have the courage to accept the love in return. Growing up, I had always wanted to get married. I loved the idea of having and raising my own family. But here I was, and this dream was unattainable. As my symptoms progressed and my health was going down the drain, I still had hope that somehow, maybe one day, I could get married. But if that doesn't happen, I'm okay with it. I had already made peace with the situation and continued living my life. Fast forward to when I was 13, a few suitors have started showing up. And when they discovered my health condition and that I had a child outside of wedlock, they disappeared. And this kept happening over and over again and left me in a constant state of disappointment. But you know what? This defeat was all in my mind. I had convinced myself that I wasn't good enough and that no man would want me with all this baggage I had. But that was a fat lie, a big fat lie from the pit of hell. The actual fact was that those men that showed up around that time were not for me. You see, whatever reason you might have tried to convince yourself with that that's the reason your dream spouse will not show up is actually a lie. In my defeated state, I started to listen to what I was consuming thought wise. I started to change what I listened to what I wanted to become. I started to listen to successful stories of people who had gotten what they want despite all the odds. And do you know what I discovered during that period of my life? Was that there is an abundance of spouses on this earth. And that the way I was on the lookout for the right man was the same way the man was on the lookout searching for me as a bride. I came to realize that there is no scarcity of spouses, that I could manifest any type of man I actually wanted. The same way we ladies are seeking for a husband is the same way the men who are watching this video, if they could tell us in the comment section, they are also seeking out for a wife. So both parties are searching. You just have to be patient for you to find and believe that you will find. I started praying that God should order the steps of my husband towards me. I remember during those days, I actually got a book that I called my marriage book and started planning out my wedding, my marriage, planning out how things was going to be in that book. I also remember in one part of that book, I came across it some few months ago, where I wrote the specification of what I wanted in a man, and I started to call it into existence as though it wasn't already in existence. They say faith calleth things that were not as though they are already in existence. So I started calling him, calling every characteristics I want him to have, or where I wanted him to come from. I called him into existence. I also started working on myself to suit the attribute I wanted in a spouse. When my husband finally showed up, it took just 3 months, 1, 2, 3, and we were already married. He saw all my inadequacies, he saw all my flaws, he saw all my baggage, and he said, "You are the one I want to marry." And he continued with the marriage. He was okay living with my health condition, knowing fully well the details of it, that this was a chronic health condition which gets worse over time, and that mine could actually get worse over time. Every now and then, I always ask my husband, why of all the ladies you met, of all the people you saw, why did you decide to settle down with me? As in, like, why did you choose me despite all the baggage I had, despite all the things that were glaring in your face, all the health condition, the child outside of wedlock? Why did you go ahead and make that decision? He will always tell me that I saw in you a person I could live with. I'm grateful to have found love and to be loved now, and to be able to give love back, because that is very liberating. I'm also eternally grateful to my spouse for first seeing me as a human being, not as the disease. I want you to always remember this, that those limiting thoughts are all in your head. If you say you can achieve this, yes, you can. But if you convince yourself and tell yourself you cannot, then that will be your reality. You would definitely never have to compromise for Mr. or Mrs. Right to find and accept you. You have to believe that your time to get married will come. You have to believe this. If there's nothing else you take from this video, you have to believe that your time to get married will come. If it's not happening now, know that it's not yet time. And as you wait, embrace and enjoy every moment of your single life. Because in marriage, you will wish you did. Don't let your own negative thoughts defeat you from achieving what your heart genuinely desires. Cultivate positive thought patterns and behaviors, and learn to fight back against defeating beliefs, attitude, by embracing the power of perseverance and self-belief. By doing so, you can unlock the full potential of manifesting your dream husband